Oiga, mi amigo.
Dígame, oiga.
¿Y es usted de Sinaloa?
No, compa. Sinaloa es mío.
Le apodan el MZ, otros le dicen padrino. Su nombre ya lo conocen, hasta los recién nacidos lo buscan por todos lados, y el hombre ni está escondido. Los dólares lo protegen, también sus cuernos de chivo. Si no se arregla la buena, lo soluciona su estilo. El caso es que lo respetan sus amigos y enemigos. La ley quiere detenerlo, los contras quieren matarlo, pero nadie lo ha logrado. Se les aparece el diablo y pasan los años, y el MC está ordenando. Y arriba Sinaloa, primo. Las órdenes son las mismas, solo las claves cambiaron. Plebada, no se preocupen, atiendan bien el mercado. Las broncas yo las arreglo en menos que canta un gallo. La gente sigue operando y el M no más ordena. Los viajes son escoltados, no hay duda, la mafia reina. Por eso en los continentes hasta el tronco han hecho leña. Por ahí aterrizan jet, por ahí llegan avionetas, por ahí retumba la banda, por ahí truenan metralletas. La fiesta sigue a lo grande, son lujos del MZ.
Hey, Victor, last night we had Bugs, Alex Bugs Marientes. He's the director and CEO and main reporter. He's the one that founded Borderland Beat. You've heard of that, right?
Yeah. I know who he is. Yes. I follow him on Twitter. Yeah.
Or well, you know what? He was on our show last night, and we made this video. I mean, I'm telling you, he talked about Mayo, and I know you're going to be talking about it at the end of our show, but it was an amazing interview. Doug, what do you think about the interview last night?
It was great. I mean, like I said earlier, the cartel ones fascinate me because I don't know much about them other than that they're bad guys, and it's just awesome to listen to that.
It was outstanding. Bobby, did you get a chance to watch the show last night?
Not yet. I was heading back from up north, so I'll watch it tonight.
Oh yeah, that was the intro video. I loved it. Benny did it for us. Great job, guys. Before we get started, let me give a welcome to everybody that's watching us. Once again, Big Joe 67 from Salinas, California. Thank you, brother, for taking your time to watch us. We got Christopher Kilby, San Diego PD, gang unit legend, watching us. 1097. Let's get ready to go. We got Dim Jajanis all the way from Thailand. I think it's 7 o'clock in the morning. Brother, thank you for waking up and watching us. And we got Ceci Escano, our sister, all the way from Riverside. You never miss the show, sister. Thank you very much for watching. We got San Diego Sheriff, a gang investigator, Roger Demshock. Brother, once again, another legend from San Diego Sheriffs. Big J, VJ Juarez from the port of LA, Long Beach. Thank you, brother. We got Tim Leja. Gracias, Tim, for watching us. And we got JC, who is in our military, currently assigned to Washington, D.C. thank you, brother, once again, man, for watching us. And the last one is Red Pill Cop in the Philippines. Wow. United States Customs Service, 1811, I believe was his badge number. Well, I don't know, 1811. Bring back our agency and get rid of homeland stupidity. All right, Red Bill Cop, welcome to the show. Guys, with that said, everybody, man, what a great weekend. Well, I don't know about a great weekend for me. We had that Hurricane 1 hit us over here in Tampa, but thank God that everything is A-okay. But with that said, we'll start off with you, Bobby. What are you drinking and what are you smoking, brother?
Smoking AJ Fernandez New World.
Oh, good cigar.
Yeah. There it is. Look. Yeah. There it is. And the last of Samarete tequila. This is a very good bottle for the price too. It's like $33, and I took it up north. We had a reunion of Gang Squad cops, a small group. There's 10 of us. We meet once a year, and we go up north. We get an Airbnb, play golf, and get stupid. It's nice and cold. It's a pine country, so still getting over that. Getting too old to be doing that.
Any backstory on that bottle? Was it one of the bottles that you bought when you lived in Monterrey?
Yeah, I got introduced to this in Guadalajara. One of my friends there, he was a secretario de Seguridad Pública there in Guadalajara or in Jalisco, and he introduced me to this tequila and also Siete Leguas. So everybody drinks that. So here we go, right here.
Hey, Victor, Red Peel saying Victor knows what I'm talking about. I'm Legacy Customs. Right on, brother.
I know exactly what he's talking about. 1811 is a series for a special agent.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Well, criminal investigator.
Well, we got a legacy. You know what? Get a hold of us after the show, Red Pill. Maybe we could have you on the show. It would be an honor to have you, brother. And we got Saul Ayala and Chris Kilby, U.S. Customs Inspector of 1988. Before he was San Diego PD, he was a Customs Inspector too.
Nice.
At the border. Victor, what are you drinking, brother? And are you smoking anything today, or are you a mandilon like me?
I might smoke a little bit after the show, but
okay.
I made myself a little Paloma tequila, a tequila with a little of the soda, and then because I'm gonna have a little tequila a little bit later on, because I'm gonna be starting celebrating my birthday early. My birthday's tomorrow, and so I'm gonna have this. I didn't put this tequila in here because this one's a better quality tequila. Tequila right now, they're all about the cristalinos. Mm-hmm. And actually, the Mexican government hasn't officially given the cristalinos its own category. They don't officially recognize it yet, but it's really what it is, a reposado that is so filtered and distilled that it comes out clear.
Yes.
But let me tell you, this Revolucion, Tequila Revolucion, I bought it in Mexico. Delicious, and I'm gonna have a little bit of sip of this after I finish this drink. So
you got Cuts by Jones. Happy early birthday. Wishing you a happy early birthday, brother.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Big Doug, what are you drinking? Surprise us. What are you drinking today, brother?
I'm a surprise to you.
Yeah.
So this is for both Dave and for Bobby. So this is a rye whiskey. Whoops, let me get it here. It's a very nice rye whiskey. It's from the Flying Leap group, and it's actually distilled in Elgin, Arizona. So
nice.
Yeah, so it's not so Bobby, you can take a trip up there. They also have very nice wines, but they make spirits also. And this is a very nice.
Where in Arizona?
In Elgin.
Elgin. Okay.
Yeah.
Trying to think. I've heard of it. I just don't remember where it's at.
You know what? I'm not good with my directions in Arizona from Phoenix, because Phoenix screws me up in a big circle. But
okay, it's south. It's south. Okay.
It's very nice.
I see it.
I think you'll enjoy it.
All right.
Hey, Doug, describe the taste. I mean, is it caramel? Because most of the time when I drink rye, I don't drink it like you're drinking it. It's a little too rough for me. I usually make old fashions with my rye. But describe. I mean, I've never had it by itself. Describe what it tastes like, if you don't mind.
It does have a caramel, but it's also got a vanilla back taste. So at the end, at the back of your throat, it's kind of a vanilla. It's really, really smooth. So even if you drink it neat, or if you just, if you drink it on the rocks, I think you'll enjoy it like that too. It's very nice.
Okay, most definitely, guys. Tonight I'm drinking one of my favorite scotches, Glenmorangie. This one is the Nectar Door, which is Highland single malt, and this one is the Sauternes cask finish. This is my bottle right here. It is a great. If you like scotch, this is my favorite. I'm telling you, Glenmorangie, and I know Doug that you like it a little
Yes.
peaty. So
Yep.
you got the Frog and all the other ones. But this one right here is one of my favorite. With that said, brother, happy birthday tomorrow. Feliz cumpleaños. Salud.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, brother. Feliz cumpleaños. With that said, Bobby, it's all yours, brother.
Okay, for those of you, this will be part 3 of having our special guest, Victor Avila. So for those of you who have not been able to catch the other 2 episodes, I'll give you a little brief a synopsis of what we discussed previously. Victor and his partner, Jaime Zapata, were, in a short version, were working in Mexico, out of Mexico City. Were tasked to go and pick up who knows what, some equipment, whatever they got sent to pick up. I guess in one of the discussions, we're not even sure what they were tasked to go pick up. And they were on Highway 57, Mexican Federal Highway 57 in San Luis Potosí, were ambushed by members of Los ZETAS drug gang, cartel. As a result of the ambush, Victor was shot several times, and his partner, Jaime Zapata, was killed from his gunshot wounds. And this happened in February 15th, 2011. And that's just the start of the story. The real story is the cover-up that happened even by our government. Some of the weapons, I believe, were from the Operation Fast and Furious, which was a gun-running operation from the Obama Eric Holder administration. The Eric Holder was the Attorney General at the time. And apparently Victor and his family ran into a lot of roadblocks that were put up in a way because I guess they didn't want the truth to come out. And it's a shameful episode in our country where those of us who go in harm's way, Victor will tell you this, there's a lot of us that work in not only the U.S., but abroad, and we're in some dangerous locations. You would hope that our government would back us up and have our back, and instead they turned their back on Victor and shamefully turned their back on a fallen brother of ours in Jaime Zapata. So that's what we covered in the first 2 episodes that we had Victor on, and I want to welcome Victor, and an honor to have you here. Brother. And the floor is yours, Victor.
No, thank you guys for allowing me. I really enjoyed being on your podcast, and the aftermath that I referred to the aftermath is worse, believe it or not, than the shooting itself, because that prolonged for years. And I didn't know that. And there's a lot of rumors. There was a lot of talk, and it gets back to you, and people start saying, "Hey, you're demanding this and you want that." And what are you talking about? All I wanted was like the normal take care of me and my family, my agency, and they didn't know what to do, and partly didn't know what to do, and they could have figured out and do it the right way because this hadn't happened before. So they didn't have a go by. And so because they didn't have that go by or that setup, that system set up for something like this to happen, now it's set up because of what happened to Jaime and I, but I was the guinea pig and ended up on the short end of the stick for a lot of things, financially, emotionally, and a lot of things, because it was my agency. And I want to say something very clear. I'm not talking about my coworkers, and I'm not talking about the agents, and I'm not talking about the people that I work with. I'm talking about the organization. I'm talking about the president. I'm talking about the Secretary of Homeland Security. I'm talking about Eric Holder. As a matter of fact, it's so funny you mentioned his name today, because I hadn't heard his name in a long time, and I heard it yesterday in the news, and it popped up. And Eric Holder was the guy in charge for the Democrats to find and vet the Democrat nominee for vice president. And I was like, oh shit, this guy's, there's still Obama, and these guys are a very tight knit group, and they're still very heavily involved in our government. Anyway, but those are the people that I referred to when I referred to that they failed us. They could have definitely done right by us, and it started from day one. It started from the moment that I got and I reunited with my family in El Paso. It was great to reunite. It was chaotic. I went to my parents' house. I had nowhere else to go. The SRT team was outside of my parents' house protecting us. You got the news networks trying to get a glimpse of me or say something, and I got family and cousins and neighbors coming over, and my mom's making burritos for the SRT team. And
yes,
I remember, speaking of tequila, one of my uncles came over with a tequila bottle. Hey, mijo, let's have a drink, and I didn't want to see anybody. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want to drink. I don't think people understood. They're like a party kind of atmosphere. Very weird. Let me tell you, very weird. And I was shot up, man. I was on heavy medications. I was in bed, mostly asleep most of the time. And I remember my wife brought our U.S. checkbook with her. And I remember we didn't have any cash. I said, here. I gave her a check, and I wrote her a check for $500. And I said, here, go somehow go to the bank and get this cash, because we need money. We need money. And sure, boy, did we need money. And the money starts coming out, right? And so then they transfer us. You can't be on the border. After we went to the funeral, they took us to Washington, D.C. They put us in a hotel room, gave me a cell phone and said, whatever you need, Victor, you call us. Well, I needed to enroll my kids in school. I needed to do a lot of things, and I needed to rent an apartment. And my wife and I I was in a wheelchair and in crutches, looking for an apartment to live. It was very, very chaotic. At the same time, I was going through the physical therapy, and the doctor's appointments were almost every day. And I don't know how my wife and I did it, but we did it with no help from the agency.
Hey, Victor, can I just break you real quick? I read your book, and you know what? I agree 100% with Red Pill Cop in the Philippines. Everyone should read Victor's book. It is a great read. Wonderful example of bravery under fire. When I read that book, and I read right after your shooting, your wife, your kids, they're literally yanked out of the apartment where you're living in Mexico City. Your clothes is there, your computer, everything is there. They're taken over to your dad's house. You arrive there. They don't even give you a chance to go back and get your furniture, get your clothes. From there, instead of sending you back to Mexico, they send you to Washington, D.C., and your clothes, furniture, and everything is still in Mexico City, and they don't allow you to go get it.
Nothing.
I couldn't believe when I read that. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, and I thought to go when they're like, you're not going to go to Mexico. I said, all right, well, let my wife go. I mean, we had shorts and T-shirts because it's 75 degrees in Mexico City in February, but it was snowing in D.C. And so we had to start buying jackets and backpacks, and we didn't have anything. And I tell people, it's not an exaggeration. We left the house. We never went back. Never. I never to this day have ever gone back. And they just kept everything locked and they covered everything with sheets, and it stayed there for almost a year. And so you forget about material stuff, your clothes. I forgot what I had, what I didn't have. But I needed clothes. I actually needed clothes. I went to Target. We needed to start a pantry, and it was very, very stressful. We spent a lot of money, a lot of effort. And so we're going through this in several months, and I want to go quickly through this because it's a lot, but there's a lot of things happening. No one really knows what's going on with me. They basically, my agency was very successful at cutting me off from everybody else. Only a very few people that I have contact with, and that continued to happen throughout for years. And that's one of the reasons why I wrote the book, because it was kind of a way for me to come out and tell the story of what happened. And after 5 months, I'm feeling good. I'm physically good, and I convinced my doctors I want to go back to work. My kids and we do not want to be in Washington, D.C., believe me. I work for the Office of International Affairs. And so I get a tip call and say, hey, there's a position open in Madrid, Spain, because I was a supervisory special agent, assistant attaché. And they said, go get it. And I did. I went into my director's office and I told him, and I had never talked to a director like this. It wasn't rude, but I did go. I didn't ask him. I went in there and I said, you're going to send me and my family to Madrid. And he looked at me and said, okay. And then before you know it, they did the paperwork. In August, the shooting was in February. In August, we are arriving in Madrid. And we just wanted to get the hell away. We were in the international setting world, and we just wanted to get away. My kids were going to a foreign school. That's what they were used to. And we just kind of wanted to normalize that, what we were having in Mexico. And Madrid was very nice. Obviously, Spain, it's a true diplomatic post, a little coffee, a little wine and bread and all that. And then there's a lot of work. There's a lot of narcotics. There's a lot of sex trafficking. We also cover Portugal. So I start working because I like to work. I start working. And then I don't know if I mentioned this with you guys the last podcast, but I'll re-mention it because I'm going to go further into it. One day, I didn't want to go to work. I just didn't get up to go to work. And my wife's like, hey, you're going to be late. Why aren't you going to work? And I said, no, I don't want to go. And she says, are you sick? And I said, no, I don't feel sick. And she says, well, so why don't you want to go? I said, I don't know. I just don't feel like going. And I didn't. And I fell into this very, very big depression. And you talk about the PTSD. Yeah. My counselors had told me, you never know when it's going to hit. It might hit today, tomorrow, in 5 years, 10 years. You don't know, Victor. Right now, you're okay. It's all good. But that day, that morning, about 8 months into being in Madrid, boom, it was bad. Bad. Hair falling off, gaining weight, eating a lot, depressed like crazy. And I tried to seek help. I tried to get help from my agency. That didn't go well. I wanted some time off to recover. I even sought out the military attaché at the embassy because I know the soldiers, go through this. And they have a lot of the bases around there. And he says, yeah, we have some great programs, Victor. I said, great, I'll take any help I can get. And all he did was call my boss and snitch on me and say, hey, Victor just came over here. He's got PTSD. And then my boss, I don't know what he told the people in Washington. So all of a sudden, I was like a pariah. Something's wrong with Victor. Something's wrong. He's got PTSD. Like, I'm going to fucking kill somebody. No. There's a lot of different types of PTSD. I have books that I've written on that I've read on PTSD because I wanted to really educate myself. And I was just the type of PTSD. I was very depressed, had a lot of anxiety. That type of PTSD. I could still carry a gun. I could still all that. But my agency didn't want to hear that, and so they kind of shunned my wife and I. And we went through that Thanksgiving. Oh man, it was so sad. It was just my wife, my 2 kids, and myself at the table with all this food, right? Just eating dinner by ourselves, knowing that the whole embassy people have been invited, to turkey dinner and Thanksgiving dinner, and everybody's doing their plans, but none of it is including us. And then there was a big, I wrote about the 4th of July party at the embassy. Yeah. The 4th of July is a big deal in Madrid. Everybody with the government, they all want to get invited, and it's a very American type of. It's a barbecue, hot dogs, hamburgers, Miller Lite, American beer, and I didn't get invited because I wasn't going to the office because they had given me some time off, and they said, "Well, I'm still part of this office. I'm going to go." So I went to the office, and my invitation was there on the side, and I saw it in my supervisor's office. And they had never sent it to me or given it to me. And I said, what's this? Oh, they got that's your invitation. And I told my wife, I'm not going to go. And my wife said, no, we should go. You still work there. I said, yeah, you know what? Let's go. So we showed up, and it was beautiful. The grounds there at the embassy, really nice, and the grassy area. And man, we were shunned ugly. I mean, literally, I can't tell you. We went over to where, the ICE people were. It's a small, small office, so it's only a few employees, and the attaché and the other guy there and their wives. And my wife and I went up to them and said, "Hey guys, the ICE family, what's going on?" And they just literally looked at me and then turned around and walked away, like out of a movie, right?
Yeah.
My wife started bawling, crying, and I want to punch somebody. Like, what the fuck, man? What did I do? What did I do to you, right? What did I do to you people? I've never done anything to anybody. And so a lot of those examples, until it got to the point where we got kicked out of Madrid. And I can't tell you the reason why. To this day, I don't know. They never told me why they kicked me out, but they kicked me and my family out, and they said, "You got 90 days to leave the country." And I fought it, and I lost that battle. And they said, "Pick a city, go anywhere in the U.S. wherever you want to go, and that's where you're gonna go." I said, "All right. Well, I want to go to San Antonio, Texas." "Oh, well, you can't go there." The SAC there at the time didn't want me there because Jaime Zapata was part of the SAC, but he wasn't out of the San Antonio office. He was out of the Laredo office. Who cares, right? But any excuse. And so, no, we don't want Victor here. So then I said, I want to go to Austin. Well, I want to go to Flagstaff, Arizona. I'm not an idiot. I'm picking the nice offices, right? I'm not going to go to LA. They don't want me on the border. I'm not going to go to New York. They talked a lot about Miami, and I think they wanted me to go to Miami. And so after all the offices across the country, it ended up being Tampa or Denver. And we picked Denver because we're more mountain people than water people. And we went to Denver, and it ended up being a nice place to go to, but it didn't end there. When I got to Denver, they had already erased my call sign, Alpha 2156. When you would call sector, it didn't exist anymore. They erased my email. So I didn't have my icedhs.gov email anymore. And then they picked up the G-Ride, they picked up all my equipment, and at one point they sent two guys to go pick up my guns. And I said, "Here, take your guns." I was very upset, and they wanted my creds. And I said, "I'm not going to give you my creds." And the agent said, "We're not going to ask you for your creds. We're not." I said, "Well, I wasn't going to give them to you. I earned these credentials. These are mine." And so they left me the creds, and I was very upset. And I even called my counselor and I said, "Hey, what the hell did you tell them? What are you telling these people that they're treating me this way? Are you saying that I'm in some kind of a danger?" He's like, "No, what are you talking about? I haven't said anything." I was so mad at him. I thought it was him. He says, "Victor, go buy a gun." I mean, he literally said, "Fuck them." Because, you guys and everybody that's listening is in the law enforcement world. I've been carrying a gun since I was 22 years of age. That shit is a part of you, man.
Yeah.
It's like, you're a banker without a pen. Well, that's the same thing with me with my sidearm. I get in the morning and I get dressed and I put my gun on just like I put on my pants. And when they stripped me of that, it hurt, man. It hurt a lot. And I remember from my counselor's office, I drove to a gun sales place in Denver, and I bought a gun and a holster, and I fucking put it on, and then she loaded it, and put it on, and I walked out of there like, it's an identity thing, right? It's something that they were stripping me of without me having anything to say about it and not have any kind of challenge about it. And it continued. And there's a lot more examples, but it was really tough on my family and I.
Hey, Victor, why did they take your gun? Why did they take your car? Did they say that you were suffering from PTSD and you were a danger to yourself and to others? What excuses were they making when they were treating you and your family like basically leopards? What excuses did they have?
They never said.
Really?
They never gave me a reason. I was assuming that it was because of the PTSD. It could be because of something else. They never said it's because of this. And then I got on. They didn't want me back in the office. Eventually, I got on workers' comp, and they you could tell at that point I finally hit me that I wasn't going to go work there anymore. And that's a very ugly feeling because all this time I still thought, well, I'm going to go back to work in some kind of capacity, right? I'll be a put me. I'm a subject matter expert in human trafficking investigations. I could be in the human trafficking center. I could be at the academy. I mean, there's a lot. I know they could invent whatever. They do that for a lot of people, and they create positions for all their friends. So I thought, you know what? They're going to take care of me. No, that never came. And so then I finally realized, oh shit, I'm not going to work there. They don't want me back. And so then I started saying, okay, well, if they don't want me back, what am I going to do? So I started inquiring about early retirement. And I did, and I started doing the paperwork for early retirement. I didn't even have to submit it. They said that's denied. And it was a congressman that said, why don't you medically retire? And I had never thought about medically retiring. It's kind of weird. You know, I even today, it's hard for me to identify as a victim of a crime, that something happened to me. That's very hard for me. Even when I testified at the trial, the U.S. Attorney's Office, like, Victor, you're testifying like an agent. Stop it. You need to testify like the victim of the crime. Well, shit, I don't know how to testify like a victim. I always testified as an agent of the government, right? Because I've gone to court thousands of times, especially because I used to be a federal probation officer. So the court was very normal to me. So I just didn't identify like that. But it slowly started sinking in that, you know what, I better do this. And I did. And it took a long time. And with the help of a congressman, I eventually got medically retired and separated in 2015. And that's a big load. You could tell that a big load of stress just came off my shoulders once that happened.
So Victor, did you guys have a POA, Police Officers Association, at the time? Did you guys have one for the federal government? Did they help you at all?
The only one that we had was the Federal Law Enforcement Officers Association, and they were great. FLIOA, which I was a member of, but you have to be a member of. This is not exclusive to ICE. It's exclusive to any federal agent. And I can't talk anything. I mean, kudos to FLIOA. FLIOA, their motto is don't go it alone. And let me tell you, they're the ones that paid for my rental in DC because I didn't have a car. They rented a car for me. They said, here's a rental. Here, they rented a car for like 2 months until you get your car shipped over here. They took care of me, man. FLIOA has been incredible. And it was FLIOA. And you know what? It was other police agencies around the country that my wife and I quickly started sinking into debt. We started going through money, man, quick. Boom, everything, the moves and everything, even though the government pays for those moves, you still spend a lot of money and it's still just very expensive to move. And we started depleting. When they put me to Denver, they wanted me to show up in Denver on December 23rd, 2012. And I told them to go pound sand. I'm not going to go take my family in a hotel on December 23rd. So they moved it to January of the following year. And we got there January, and I wasn't going to put my family in an apartment. I lived in a house. And so all our resources, I had a rental property. We sold it and we bought a house in Denver. Like, I wasn't going to let the government, take us down. And let me tell you, God works in mysterious ways, because it was that house that got us out of this whole mess, because we lived in Denver for 3 years. And at one point, I remember my wife came up to me on a weekday and she said, we got to go. We got to sell the house. And I knew that she was right. I didn't want to go. I kind of liked it there. It's we're chill there. It was easy. It was going good. But financially we couldn't sustain anymore. And she says, we got to sell it. The market was going crazy over there in Denver. So we sold the house and we made that money. And then we moved back to El Paso, bought a smaller house. My wife got back into the pharmaceutical industry, and, slowly but surely we started coming out, but it wasn't easy. And so during that time, I started writing the book. We did a documentary, and I started getting a little bit more visible. I started talking more about it. I started, when I got to El Paso, or maybe after that, is when a friend of mine said, hey, have you ever done a hit for the news? And I said, no, what's that? So you go on the news and you talk for 4 minutes, and you talk to a camera. and I started doing that, and then they started calling me for that. And I started doing a little bit of that, just kind of hanging around, trying to do, because I wanted to do something. I wasn't doing anything. And because going from, you gotta imagine, going from that to nothing, it's very, very hard. Well, that's all I've done is law enforcement all my adult life.
So, Victor, when the agency started doing this to you, had you given them any indication that you were pissed off at them, mad at them? That were you filing, any type of complaints, or were you just like, dude, just send me back to work? I just want to go to work.
No, we did file a lawsuit, and I don't know if that pissed them off or not. But listen, countless of federal employees have sued the government, and they still work there, whether they're mad at them or not. And so we teamed up with the Zapata family, and we sued the government. It didn't go the way we wanted it to go. We should have had other attorneys, and you live and learn. But we did sue the government. We filed a lawsuit for negligence, and it took a long time, and it went nowhere. Why? Because the government itself wouldn't give us the documents that we kept on asking for. Everything was redacted. And the judge in the Southern District of Texas is like, well, if you don't bring me the evidence, how am I supposed to rule on this?
Right.
And so we just wanted to get to discovery portion. And we knew if we got to a discovery portion, they were going to get my bosses to have to come and depose them, right? Well, they never got to that. Everything was dismissed. We didn't. There was no earning, no return, nothing. We didn't get anything from the lawsuit. I don't know if that pissed them off. I don't think it was that grave of a deal. I think it's natural. That's our natural recourse here in the United States, is to hold somebody accountable. How do you do it? Is by suing them. That's the way you do it. And I don't know if that's what really ticked them off. But other than that, let me tell you, there's a lot of rumors, and especially from that I heard later on, that the director was saying, what does Victor want now? We give him everything that he wants, and he keeps on asking for this and that. That's the way they saw me in DC. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about, man? I'm over here struggling. And they kept me very quiet, and they kept me from talking to a lot of people. And this I know, people told me, they told us, Victor, not to call you, not to email you, not to have any contact with you. And they did, because they were afraid that they possibly would lose a job or something. They would come look at them. And so I remember I was in El Paso, and I bumped into an old U.S. Marshal friend of mine at Costco. And he's like, hey, what's up, man? Big hug and everything. He's like, what, are you the SAC now? Are you the special agent in charge? I tell him, shit, I don't even work there anymore. So this is the mentality. Some people thought, hey, they hooked Victor up. They took care of him. The way, and other people like, where's Victor? Where the hell did he go? Because I was off the map, off the grid for a long time.
Yeah, I get the idea that one is that they obviously didn't want you talking to anybody, because in my belief is that they knew that they hadn't done the things they needed to do for you, your family, and for Jaime's family. And then secondly, I think that they declined your medical retirement, which would have been an easy way for you to go. But to further punish you, the best thing for them would have had you just resign, and you wouldn't be, your benefits would have been gone.
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff. So they could have just washed their hands of you at that point, and you just wouldn't go away.
I got with Congress, and a congressman that was really supporting me, and we actually started the process of having a hearing. And he says, I'm going to have a hearing. I said, man, if you have a hearing, I can't wait to have the supervisors there and be questioned.
Yes.
So the committee there of the House Homeland Security Committee, they had a group of people working and asking ICE and DHS. And man, every time I would have a meeting with them, all they would tell me is like, man, they block us from everything. They block us from everything. And one time, my wife and I were in DC. We went to go meet with the Homeland Security Committee, and we were in a conference room. And they say, we were talking about all the stuff that's going on and hopefully trying to get the hearing. And they said, oh, Victor, we want to share something with you. And we just don't want you to get upset, but we want to tell you what they're telling us. And I said, go ahead, tell me. It's okay. Well, they're saying that that the reason that a lot of this stuff is happening to you is because you're an alcoholic. And my wife was trembling and crying. And I said, okay, so this is what they resort to. I'll tell you what, if I had a drinking problem, I would have told you I have fucking PTSD and I'm drinking and I'm using drugs but I didn't. I'm thankful to God that I didn't. As a matter of fact, I drank less. I didn't even drink. And what I did do is eat a lot, and I gained a lot of weight. And I was like at 215 pounds, which is very heavy for me. I usually weigh like 185. And so, yeah, that was my vice, is eating. And so for somebody to attack your character that I was a drunk, fucking pissed me off. I mean, it's hurtful, right? When they,
oh yeah,
that's how they go after you. Well, if we can't find anything, we'll accuse them of that, being an alcoholic. And so those are the things that we kind of started hearing. And then you just kind of, time goes on when we separated. And, it's just like kind of start healing a little bit at a time.
Bobby, I think you had a question, Bobby.
Yeah, I'm hearing what you're going through. I'm friends with Brian Terry, the Border Patrol agent who was killed in Southern Arizona. I'm friends with his brother and sister, brother-in-law. I've golfed with them, and they told me the same thing. The roadblocks, when they found out that their brother was killed by a weapon from Fast and Furious, every roadblock you could think went up. And they were shocked. They were thinking, I thought they would do everything to help out our family, the hurt that we went through. No, it was like, we don't have no use for you anymore. You're gone. Shut up. So they became very vocal as well.
And that's a good point, Bobby, because I talked to the Terry family a lot. And because two of the weapons that we were recovered, there was actually 3, but we have 2 ballistic report from the ATF recovered from the scene over there that shot at us. The ballistics all match, and they're part of Operation Fast and Furious, because a lot of people don't know Operation Fast and Furious started in Arizona, but they wanted to model this in the entire country. And so it was already moving through New Mexico, El Paso, and Texas. And these 2 weapons, one was sold in Dallas and the other one was sold in Houston by the Osorio brothers. And the Osorio brothers were under the watch of the ATF. As soon as our shooting happened, they got arrested within 3 days. We got hit, and somebody, oh shit, they went and picked them up, and they're still in prison because they knew they had them under their watch. How do you allow these 2 guys, Osorio brothers? They have undercover video. The journalist that did the documentary is the one that obtained all of this, and there's an undercover video of them passing a duffel bag full of AK-47s, the Osorio brothers, to send it back south, and they were sending thousands of weapons south, which have, not only armed the ZETAS, Sinaloa cartel, and a bunch of people all over the country. They ended up in Benghazi. They ended up in France. They ended up in a lot of people's bad people's hands. And so maybe that's another reason, right? Because they're like, we have 2 agents now killed based on this type of operation, this model. And it's 2012. What happened in 2012? It's an election year. And this happened, and then Benghazi happens in September 11th of 2012. Then you heard the whole lies about that. All of that was covered up for election purposes, I think. And so, nevertheless, we're over here trying to prove it, with what we have and what we get through journalists or through whatever. Like, hey, I got this document, but you can't use it that way. You have to officially get it from the government to give it to the judge. And to this day, we haven't gotten it. To this day, none of it has been received.
Yeah, and with the weapons too. When I was in Mexico from 2014 to 2017, so I was there for 3 years, we were hearing all the time that, we're not even talking about the deaths of the Mexicanos. The Mexicans were getting killed left and right. Those weapons were being found at mass killings of police officers, politicians, you name it. And it was, they just wanted to just cover it up. We don't even want to talk about this. I knew because I was talking to ATF at the time and saying, this is what's popping up, but it's just really quiet, never got to the media.
As a matter of fact, under the AMLO presidency, which he's about to leave, which is 6 years in Mexico, He broke every record of the amount of homicides under his watch. It's, I think, hit close to 160,000 homicides. Now, Mexico has 110 million people. Per capita, if you do that, do the math, and I'm not good at math, but I know that if you do it per capita in the U.S., that's an extraordinary amount of homicides, a lot of those with weapons that are coming, obviously, from the U.S., but we know that they come from the U.S. We all understand that they get smuggled. Nobody ever takes them down. Nobody ever interdicts them going into Mexico. However, the last thing you need is for the U.S. government to be facilitating that movement. I mean, shit, it makes no sense, right? Everybody talks about Fast and Furious, but it's not complicated, and it doesn't take. You don't have to be even a little bit smart to understand that who the hell thought this up? Because it's the biggest botched federal operation in the history of law enforcement, yet they were doing it.
Hey, you know what? I agree with you, Red Pill Cop. Enrique Camarena, they covered it up with the truth. Was there too? It's what they do. With that said, I agree with you, Red Pill. But on your incident, you survived. So you were telling the truth. You were saying what really happened. Jaime couldn't defend himself. Kiki Camarena couldn't defend himself. Now, you basically started saying, hey, listen, I mean, I read your book where you told your supervisor, hey, I don't want to go. He's forcing you to go. And then later he testifies or he tells people that he volunteered to go and he lied. And then when you got to Washington, D.C., I saw how that supervisor treated you. When you got to Spain, I saw how the anti-shade treated you. When you got to Denver, I mean, your book, I mean, it reveals how these guys basically, they're in a supervisory level and how they were terrible. Now, have you thought about going after them now today, civilly? The laws in the civil court are much different than the federal laws, and you might be able to bring in a lot more evidence in a civil hearing. Have you thought about going after these supervisors for lying? I mean, the book alone tells you that they're liars. Have you thought about doing that? Have you talked to an attorney about that? The laws are different. The laws of evidence are different in civil court.
So what actually happened is we actually named them as individuals in the lawsuit, but back then they were all protected under the color of law. So even though you're suing them civilly and independently, they're still under the protection of the government because they were government employees. Let me tell you, it's very, very hard. It's very hard. Now I could probably the statute of limitations probably all run out, and that's probably all old news now. But yeah, the book obviously details a lot more than what I'm going into right now.
A lot. Yes.
I really go into the detail, but I just want people to understand that it was a daily occurrence, man. It was daily that just something one after the other. For example, the 1 year anniversary of Jaime's death. 1 year, we were in Spain. I'm coming to the one. They're doing a 1 year commemorative ceremony in Brownsville, Texas. I told my wife, I'm coming. I'm paying my way. I don't care what anybody tells me. I'm coming. Well, then I get a call and they say, Victor, it looks like, it's going to be a very small private event. It's only going to be the Zapata family. So if you had any plans of coming, don't, because it's going to be very private. It's just very small. And the Zapata family is asking for that privacy. Oh, shit. I said, and I was talking to the Zapata family a lot. And I said, okay. Oh, wow. Thank you for telling me. I didn't want to go in there and impose, right? Well, this is, I'm telling you, I can't make this shit up. I mean, my wife is like, are you sure? So my wife calls Mrs. Zapata. And Mrs. Zapata says, what? We have 1,000 people coming. It's at the convention center. And as a matter of fact, I told ICE I want Victor and his family here. Wow. And my wife is like, what? And she said, Mrs. Zapata said, you guys better come, I want Victor to read at the church. I already have him as one of the readers for one of the passage things in the Bible to read. And my wife just blew, and she gets, this was like at 2:00 in the morning in Spain. And she writes this email that I still have to this day to the director of HSI at that time, blasting him like, what the hell's the matter with this? And in very nice language, just like, what's the matter with you? And then the following morning, I get a phone call from DC. Oh, we're going to start making plans for you and your family to come to the, I mean, shit like that. Like, it's just a lot of stress, right? Inviting me, uninviting me, and to several things, not just the anniversary.
Victor, so what are you doing now? I mean, you went through that, and once again, man, I'm really pushing your book because I'm telling you that is one of the best books I have ever read. I mean, I'm telling you, the way you describe your supervisors, the incident, outstanding book. But what are you doing now?
Well, I'm very politically involved. I ran for Congress. I didn't make it. They're not ready for me yet. But I want to give back the information, the expertise that I know, and obviously we're going through a border security crisis, and so I do a lot of hits, media hits, speaking engagements. I speak to a lot of political groups, and that's what I've been doing. I like to share the story. I like to tell people anytime anybody asks me to come speak, it's therapeutic for me. It's therapeutic. Believe it or not, it's weird. You get better as a speaker as you go along, right? And I kind of have this presentation, but even if it's a presentation for 15 minutes or a quick speech, I always tell them I will always have to mention something about Jaime Zapata because I believe it is my duty to continue to spread and say his name because not anybody knows. As a matter of fact, very few people know. The people that are in our world know, but outside of that, nobody knew. And this is what I love about the DEA, that they memorialized Kike Camarena. To this day, every single year in his anniversary, it's a special day for the DEA. And so my agency doesn't do that, so I'm going to do that. That's why I'm alive. So everywhere I speak, everywhere I can, and I have the opportunity, I mention Jaime Zapata and his sacrifice to our country, and the ultimate sacrifice of being lost in the line of duty. And then I got politically involved. I want to be part of the solution. I don't like the direction the country's going to, and then in the border, that's my thing. And illegal immigrant, I happen to know this stuff, and I just want to be able to tell people like, I go down to the border, like, and I know, Bobby, you feel this, like, we have to do this because this is what we did. It's very frustrating to see all this shit happening and knowing that it doesn't have to be this way. And so I've been politically involved in that way, and I speak to a lot of political groups, and so that's how in the book I talk a lot about the book. And so believe it or not, the book at the end I wrote at the little section about border security.
Yes, you did.
And I did it on purpose because I got a little criticized. Oh, why'd you have to put that stuff in there? I said, listen, I put it in there because I wanted people to know that I was more than just the agent that got shot or the agent that survived. I had good expertise. I did very good cases. I want to share what I think would be solutions to what's going on at the border. And this book is 3 years old. And if you read it, you think I wrote it yesterday with the information that's on there, because everything that I wrote on there is happening right now.
Victor, are you planning to run for office again anytime soon?
No.
Really?
Let my wife hear you. Because, no. It takes a toll. It takes a toll. It is hard. And I was running for U.S. Congress in Texas, and I thought I had a chance. I thought, the people are ready for. I just want people to. I wanted to be an extension of my federal service. You're going to get an employee like a loyal employee that I was for 20 years. You're going to get that. I just happen to be a congressman, and I'm going to get paid a salary, and I'm going to go do my job, and I'm going to do it with integrity. And I think that's been lost in Congress. And so that was part of my messaging, but believe me, it's a lot harder than that. it takes a lot of money and it takes a lot of other things that to all kind of come together. But it's okay. It's okay. I learned a lot. It took me to other levels of learning how this other system works. And let me tell you guys, and you guys have been in the trenches. The political world is dirtier. It's nastier. It's way worse than the police work that we did and the undercover work and all that. The politicians is grotesquely, I can't say it, it's bad. And it's bad because in our line of work, we knew who the bad guy was. And we identified the bad guy and we followed the bad guy and we knew who the bad group was. Well, in politics, you don't even know who you're talking to. You think it's your best friend right here in front of you from your own party, and they're the ones stabbing you in the back. Yeah. And right in front of you with a big smile on your face, and you don't even know it. And then you find out a month later, what the hell? Oh shit! What I tell you know? So I was telling people I would kid around. I feel like I'm in an undercover role every time I'm talking to somebody in the political world. Like, careful what you say, because that's not the way you're supposed to run a country. You're supposed to be the representative of the people. Tell me what you want, and then I'll go over there and try to get it done in DC. Imagine if it was actually that way, which it's not. But I might be a little bit idealistic and maybe a little naive about it. But I don't care. I like being naive about that because I want our country to go back to the fundamentals of what this country was based on and created on, which I love, which gave my parents the opportunity to come here legally and give me and my sisters the opportunity to go to college. My sister's an attorney. That's the American dream. I love being part of the American dream. And I want those people to have it, but I just want them to do it legally. That's all.
Well, Victor, we got over 5,000 people following us, and these are all prayer warriors. I'll tell you, people that are watching, we're going to start praying for you, and I hope and pray that you decide to run again. And if you do, please come on our show to announce it. We'll raise funds for you. We'll pray for you. We'll fly down, and we'll walk the streets for you. I'm not just telling you. Ask Bobby. I'm a man of my word. We're all men of our word. We will do that. If you ever decide, please come back on the show, talk about it. And you got 5,000 people, man, that will be praying for you and be donating money to help you. But with that said, Big Doug, it's all yours, brother.
We're going to go over Mayo's theories about how he ended up in the States. So the guest from last night was talking about basically 4 different versions. And Dave and I both picked version number 4, but I'm going to go over them real quick for everybody. So version 1 was that both Mayo and Joaquin Guzman, they turned themselves in voluntarily. Version 2 version 3 was, I can't see that version now.
Oh, let me go ahead and move it. Okay, go ahead, brother.
Okay, version 2, Mayo was lured or tricked by Joaquin Guzman to get into that plane to end up back in the States. Version 3 was he was abducted and forced by Guzman. And version 4 was it's a combination of a couple of the DEA or the CIA actually had an operation where they abducted him after convincing him of other reasons they were abducted him and brought him back to the States. And so those were the 4 big versions. And our guest last night very carefully stated that he's got his personal beliefs on which version he believes, but he was kind of reluctant to say it because he doesn't have any real evidence to one or the other. So Dave and I both picked version 4. I think it was an operation that our government concocted, and just because the numbers on the planes and a bunch of different things, and what was on the planes and what weren't on the planes, and the airfield that they went into, and the lack of security that he would have had if he was actually flying around. And he didn't like flying, from what we understand. He was afraid to fly. So anyways, we were going to ask you, Victor, what you thought would be a decent version of how he ended up back in the States.
I believe me, and the phone was ringing like crazy when it went down, and a lot of news hits and all this, and you're learning the information, and we all have sources, we all have friends, and so I'm on the phone, and people are telling me this and telling me that. So after it kind of the dust settled, I think it's a combination of 2 and 4. But I gotta say something very, very. I don't know if it matters or not, but I'll say it because this was said to me repeatedly that DEA was not involved at all here. As a matter of fact, people emphasized to me that DEA was very upset because DEA had no role. It was an FBI and HSI that did this, and as a matter of fact, they're the only ones that picked him up there at the air when he landed. Having said that, I'm just passing along what they told me. But I think it's a combination of 2 and 4 that he was lured in, and a ruse, what we call a ruse. And I did this a couple of times in my career, and the ruses are very, very delicate because you're trying to get a person that you cannot get your hands on U.S. soil, whether it's in Mexico or in Russia, whatever country they're at, and you just cannot get them in that country. So you're trying to get them on U.S. soil to be able to, take them into custody. And I did a couple from Mexico. I'll share one that's not, the other one I can't, but one I can't tell you because I was in Mexico, and this guy was a Cuban national, was in Mexico, was wanted for some serious crimes from HSI ICE out of the Miami office, and we caught him in Mexico. And so we had the Mexican government deport him because he was illegal. He was a Cuban national, just to go to show that Mexico can deport people when they want to. But the only thing that Mexico said, well, you're going to deport him, you pay for it. Okay, we'll pay for it. So we had the plane, and we told him he's going to be deported back to Cuba. So the plane took off from Mexico, but for some reason it had to land in Miami. I don't know why. It just did. It landed in Miami, and then he was hooked up right there. That's one. That was a fun one because that's a lure, right? So anyway, I did another one. That one I can't talk because that was a little bit more sensitive. This one, that's why talking about luring is very sensitive because the Mexican government sees a lure like entrapment. They see it like the old undercover, like Mexico always thought undercover work was all entrapment. You're setting them up. And there's a lot of case law for being able to lure someone legally to do it for a lot of the reasons that I talked about, because you never can get them, especially Mayo Zapata, who's been lost for 50 years. I mean, nobody knows where the hell the guy was. So I think it's a combination of incredible police work and negotiations with the lure. I don't think he turned himself in. I don't think they both turned themselves in. Yeah. I think it was a deal there. And then I say this: after all is said and done, they're in U.S. custody, and that's all I care about. Yes. They're here. Whatever's going to happen, whatever. But they're behind bars in the U.S. And let's see what happens. Let's see what they give up. One of the weird things that came up, Oviedo. I know I got the release. Oh, Oviedo was released 2 days before. And I'm over here calling every single person that I know about the release because I used to work as a federal probation officer and worked very closely with Bureau of Prisons. And when they show that on their computer, released on this day, it doesn't necessarily mean that the person or the not the convict, the felon, whatever, that was released. It could mean that he was transferred to another prison. And I think that Oviedo was transferred, or maybe possibly something's going on there. There's maybe he cooperated with this, and maybe for a lighter sentence, or who knows. All I know is that Mayo Zapata has the information that we've all been investigating for 20 years. He knows where all the dead bodies are. He knows where all the corrupt politicians are on both sides of the border, by the way. And I don't know where we're going to get to the bottom of it, but it's a good thing. I think overall, after said and done, it's a good thing for U.S. law enforcement and for this guy to be behind bars.
Yeah. Without it. Bobby, what's your opinion? I know you were on the show last night, and I know you still have a lot of contacts with CIA, DEA, FBI, etc. What's your opinion, Bobby?
I'm like Victor. It's a combination. And I think one thing you're going to hear from the Mexican government, they're going to claim that you hear it from his attorneys, that he was kidnapped, he was, tasered, they did everything, because what they want to do, the evil American government has violated our sovereignty.
Oh, thank you for saying that, Robert. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, you're going to hear that over and over. How dare you come into our country and do your dirty deeds? So give them back or whatever. They're gonna claim bloody murder, and you know that. I thought it was a combination, and I've talked to people in Mexico. I've talked to people even in our own government, and there's no one. It's like, throw a dart, but I'm like Victor. I don't think they turn themselves in. And if anyone would have had a deal, would have been Chapo's brother, just because maybe seeking a downward departure on his sentencing. But I just couldn't picture Mayo saying, well, I'm going to turn myself in. I just couldn't see that.
No.
Yeah. And one other thing too, we have a rot in our government and our political system. And somebody always asks me this, and I say, and I saw it with Department of State. Victor, you see it. Something happens to that group of people that take that career path to promote. And in the federal government, they all want to get to D.C. and rub shoulders, rub elbows with the political class. I've always said, if it was up to me, I would move all those federal agency headquarters and send one to North Dakota, Moose Nuts, Montana, and just scatter them so that they're not rubbing elbows with the political class, because all they're doing is looking for a job after their career. And they don't care about the guys down at the field level that are risking their lives and building the cases. And most of those guys that climb up that ladder have never done cases. We all know who they are. We have it with police departments where a lot of guys, I took a career path to be an investigator. You have guys that take career path, they're going to become chief of police. Every now and then we'll get somebody that sneaks through the cracks, and they were a good cop and they become a chief, assistant chief. But for most part, we're different. We're not the same, and that's why I think they don't look out for us, because they have one thing they have one goal: rise up to the top, get to DC, get to City Hall, and become they're part of that political animal. It's a rot. It's a rot, and it hurts our country. Is what it does.
Man, you're right. I was going to say really quickly, you're spot on, Robert, because especially. Because it's the bubble, right? That's why they call it the swamp, because you can't, it's just so swampy there. But I love the fact is I've talked to a lot of people about, well, put the FBI headquarters in, like you said, somewhere over here in the Midwest. And
Moose Nuts, Montana.
Yeah, the thing about DC is that you could walk to K Street, which is the donors, the lobbyists, right? And you could have lunch with them every day. When I go to DC, this is funny. Everybody, depending on if you want to be seen and who you want to be seen with, you do it one way. If you want to have a private meeting that you don't want anybody to find out, then you have it somewhere in the bunker over there in a hidden office where nobody knows. But many times on purpose, they're like, no, let's go have a coffee at this Starbucks right here where everybody sees you, because everybody's got eyes and ears in DC. Everybody works. It's like think of it as a high school, and the gossiping is so centralized, and everybody's talking about the same thing, and it's all going around all these subjects, blah blah blah. But they're talking, and you'll say something at a Starbucks or at the Capitol Grill there, and right next to Capitol Hill, where all the politicians go. You'll say something out loud that matters. It's going to get back to people, and it's going to come around. That's how sensitive, and that's why I love that solution, Bobby. That will spread them out. Now you have to get on a plane to go, and you're not going to do that, right? So I think that's one of the solutions.
Yep.
Hey, Victor, there's a saying that says the best form of revenge is success. You know what? I'm going to pray that if Trump becomes president, that he makes you, I saw you have that shirt, Make America Great Again, that he makes you the ambassador to Mexico.
Wow.
then he makes you the ambassador. Forget becoming a congressman, a senator. Become the ambassador to Mexico. If anybody has the credentials, it's you. So let's start pushing that. Let's start planting the seed in Washington, wherever it needs to be planted, because you're the perfect man for that. With that said, brother, time is on one of our worst enemies. Bobby, any last words for Victor?
No, thanks, Victor. 3 episodes, great information came out, and I'm honored to call you my friend. And another, I was going light here. I still have some here, but we'll see. Maybe we can have you back on for some analysis of something else that happens, because the mess at the border. And the other thing I say, we're going to get hit. We're going to get a terrorist hit. The door is wide open, and that's why we always say everybody's
scary. We're not fear mongers. We're just logical people, right? We just tell you how it is, and the way everything is shaping up to be. And I'll tell you really quick. I just came back from Savannah, Georgia, and Savannah, Georgia. I beat the storm, by the way. I got out just in time, and met with the Savannah Police Department. They're down like 130 police officers, and I went to a couple of fire stations, and they've got fentanyl problem like crazy. Yes. Fentanyl, the deaths, and they're telling me that the fire department guys are saying it doesn't matter if you're at the richest part of Savannah or the poorest at the projects. Death of fentanyl is everywhere, equal everywhere. And I'm telling them, well, this is all part of the border, and they didn't really get it. They didn't really. There's not someone telling them that connection, right? Because we talk about everything, how it comes out, the cartels and their distribution. Well, they're seeing the dead body. They're seeing the dead body of the overdoses. And I said, what are you seeing? Pills, powder? He said, mostly powder. The pills, when we see them when we give them Narcan and they throw it up, and then they throw up the pills that they ingested. And so I just wanted to share that it's everywhere in the country. Every part of the country is now affected by this border situation, especially our border national security.
Big Doug, any last words for Victor?
Victor, thanks for coming on again. I enjoy listening to your story. The book is very good. I do recommend that for other people. And another thing on the fentanyl, didn't they just seize like 1,000 pounds, half a ton?
As a matter of fact, that's a good point. That's a very bad thing indicator that when the seizures go up and they're grabbing thousands of pounds, that's not a good thing, guys. We're dropping the seizures. That means that we're getting our asses handed to us. And anybody that's been a narcotics officer knows that. When I was in El Paso and we're seizing left and we're blinking and getting a seizure, we knew, oh shit, we're getting hit. When the seizures came down, then we knew we were having some kind of control on the border. So right now, it's a free-for-all.
And they do. I mean, they were willing to let that go because they got so much coming in.
That's right.
Victor, a toast to you. Feliz cumpleaños.
Saludos.
Feliz
Gracias.
cumpleaños, carnal. Feliz cumpleaños. Vamos.
Thank you. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate all the support. Love you guys. Thank you.
Victor, hang on for us afterwards, please.
Yes.
Thank you, Victor. Man, Bobby, thank you once again, man. 3 episodes with Victor. What an outstanding individual. You know what? I hope he does. Hopefully he will become. Could you imagine if he became the ambassador in Mexico? I mean, the knowledge that he has, the changes, he would be outstanding. That's who we need to be the ambassador in Mexico. That's what we need.
Victor has a lot of connections. He's made a lot of connections, and hopefully he can get some role in a new government that we hopefully will be seeing. And going back to the fentanyl, that was 4 million fentanyl pills. And I think we have mentioned it. We know Avato that's doing some of those fentanyl buys right now. And if you buy bulk, I think he's paying 30 cents a pill if you buy bulk. 30, 40 cents a pill is what he's paying.
Wow.
That
was in Phoenix. That was in Phoenix, right, Doug? That the big seizure?
Lukeville, port of entry. Lukeville, Southern Arizona.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I read about that.
Yeah.
Hey, guys, next week we have an outstanding episode, and he's going to be with us for 2 weeks. I don't know if you've ever heard of Norco, big Norco shooting, one of the most shocking bank robberies in U.S. history. Over 32 police cars were damaged. a police helicopter was actually shot down during this robbery. Those of us that are from California, I don't know about you, Bobby, but they always talked about it in the academy.
Yes.
Things about the Norco robbery. I mean, this has so many great stories. We lost a deputy sheriff, was murdered during this robbery. They used bazookas. They had bombs. I mean, this is a Christian American radical group that went out and pulled this armed robbery. It is next week. We got Andy Monty. That's his picture up above, and that's the picture directly below is what he looked like in 1980 during the shooting. He'll be with us for 2 weeks. It's going to be an outstanding episode next week. I'm looking forward to it. Guys, if you guys get a chance, read the book. Look at so you'll know a little bit about it. If you don't remember, I had to reread the book. I'll tell you, it is another outstanding book. With that said, Bobby, any last words, brother?
No, thanks everyone for joining us. And in the future, I have an old gang detective from Phoenix PD, great gang cop, Jeff Dower, whose career was cut short. We had a sniper that was shooting at us back when I was in gangs, mid-90s, and he took a shot right below the knee, and eventually they saved his leg initially, but he lost. They had to take his leg, and what he did is took a medical retirement, went over, worked as an analyst for DEA. Now he works for, I think, Amazon, FedEx, or one of those companies. And he kicked our ass at the golf course this weekend on his his prosthetic leg. He whipped all of us. So he's the best golfer of the 10 of us out there.
But did you get him to commit to come on the show?
Yes. He will be coming on hopefully in September. Whenever we get an opening, he's agreed to come on and we'll tell his story. Yes.
Oh, I can't wait. It's going to be outstanding. Big Doug, any last words, brother?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate what my buddy Chris Kilby said earlier: is make sure you do your buddy checks.
Exactly.
Check on your friends, check on family members. Just make sure everybody's doing fine, doing well, and that's it. Just check on your buddies.
Right.
And guys, I forgot to mention next Tuesday on the Gray Line at 5 o'clock, we got Ruben Palomares, former LAPD cop. The movie Training Day is based on his life story. He's going to talk about the inception, the creation of the MS-13. He'll be on next week. So we'll see you next week. And Bobby, I'm going to quote your saying that the doctor told your son, trust the process. Not only trust the process, but trust the author. And the author is Jesus Christ. With that said, we'll see you next week. God bless you.
Yeah.